Well, today we're making St. Louis style pork steaks. Tender, juicy, slathered in barbecue sauce, just like Dad used to make. It's TWW Barbecue. Now I'm sort of speaking out of turn on this one. I'm not from St. Louis. I've never had a St. Louis pork steak. I never even heard of one until my wife came home with a pack of pork steaks and said, "Cook them, please." And then I tried to learn what she thought of as the perfect pork steak. And I, in fact, had a little conversation with Nicole, my wife, recently to find out just what makes the perfect pork steak. And then how do you cook them?
He would put them on a charcoal grill. It was like a Weber, I think he had, or something like that.
How much lighter fluid did he use?
Probably a lot.
All of the lighter fluid. Would he slap the barbecue sauce on early or late?
I just know that it was like part of the pork chop. Like it wasn't laying on top. It wasn't like that he cooked it and it was after. It was just like
it melded.
It fused.
It fused with the meat.
You know, a little salt.
It was very simply seasoned.
Simply seasoned. Char the hell out of them. Probably midway right towards the end, slather the barbecue sauce, put it on, and cook it. You cooked it on the pork steak.
Okay. I'm not doing lighter fluid, by the way. No. Now, look, I know I can't compete with what Dad used to do. That taste memory, that stuff's ingrained in your soul. But if I could just give her a little bit of a taste of what her dad used to do, it's going to put a smile on my face. So let's fire up the grill. See if we can't do it. Based on Nicole's description, we're definitely going with charcoal in the Weber kettle, specifically Jealous Devil hardwood lump, and I'll use a chimney starter to get it going. Now, if I had to guess, her dad probably used something like Kingsford briquettes, and as we joke, probably doused the whole affair in lighter fluid. I have my limits. Check it out. Flames in slow motion. Cool. If you want to know how hot these things can get, take a look at that handle. It used to have plastic on it. Oh, and by the way, here's the best use for a gas grill. I'm just kidding. Every grill has its place.
Where men sell propane and propane accessories.
I'm setting up a 2-zone fire here so that I can go indirect for the first part of the cook. Now I'll put the lid on and look around to see if anyone notices how cool I look when I clink around the lid like a badass. I'll set the intake at the lowest setting and the top vent about half open, or half closed, depending on your life perspective. So pork steaks are generally huge, like too big for a plate huge, but I've seen them come in all different sizes and thicknesses. Even in these 2 packs, you can see we've got a pretty good variety. Okay, so I'll give them a little rub down with olive oil, followed by some salt and pepper. Now that's going to be it for Nicole and the kids. I'll put mine aside for a little bit of extra lovin'. I'll add some Meat Project Booty Rub. This thing isn't going to taste like pulled pork or anything, but I personally think it really benefits from the extra flavor in a rub. So with the grill rolling around 250 or so, I'll throw on the steaks. Now I honestly didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the time frame, but I let them go for about an hour or so. I also let the temp climb a little bit because I noticed how late it was, and there's nothing worse than the look I get from Nicole when dinner is late because I'm screwing around with a video. After giving each one a little flip, I throw the lid on and let them go for another 20-25 minutes. And while I love meat, I'm also a big fan of vegetables, and nothing makes boring veggies taste better than a ride on the charcoal dragon. A few minutes later, I give the steaks a little barbecue bath using Sweet Baby Ray's. Once the beans are ready, I'll pull those off, causing my camera to wig out, and then I'll get ready for some direct cooking to char that barbecue sauce. I spread the coals out toward the center just to expand that hot zone a little bit, and then flip the steaks over, letting the sauce cook into the meat. I could then sauce the other side. And this step can vary in time depending on how hot your coals are. Mine weren't quite as hot as I would have liked, so I had to give them a little bit more time and moved them around a little bit for even cooking. Now, one thing I learned when cooking these for Nicole is that it's not really about doneness. When it comes to thin cuts of pork, I'm always trying to nail that doneness perfectly so that the meat isn't too dry. But with these, it's more about charring that sauce as well as crisping up the fat. These are pretty fatty cuts, and some parts of the fat can become quite tasty when they're grilled over that high heat. But these things are decidedly well done. And now you can see what we're aiming for. They still have some life left in them, still plenty of juice, but they're clearly nice and caramelized with that sauce fused to the meat, as specified by Miss Missouri. Of course, I had to sneak in a little bite before joining the family. Oh yeah, brilliant shot of my chin, but I assure you, it was very good. Is it good?
Yes.
Okay, so Ava liked it, but what about Nicole?
Do it. Do it.
That's good.
Good.
All right, so I don't know if that competes with Dad's pork steaks, but Nicole seemed to like it. Anytime she says I'm done multiple times but keeps going back for more, that's usually a really good sign. So I think we did okay. I think the combination of the sort of low portion of the cook, getting some of that fat to render a little bit. There's a lot of fat and like connective stuff going on in these pork steaks. It feels like a cheap cut, but with the right temperature. And then especially once you kick up the temperature at the end and you start to get some of the crispy bits in the fat. I don't like eating a ton of fat, but if you get just the right amount of temperature and char on pork fat in the right proportion, it's really, really good. And I think that's kind of what we're aiming for with something like that. I do like the one with the rub better. Anytime I've made these in the past, I always try to put a little bit of barbecue rub just to send it in that barbecue direction. Nicole's not that big of a fan of that. So it just depends on what you're into. She just likes it much more simply seasoned, and the barbecue sauce is doing all the heavy lifting. For me, I like a little bit of extra flavor with the rub. So I would call that a success. And if you are from St. Louis, I'd be curious because this is just Nicole's memory of this thing. And I know this is something that's pretty common in that area. I would love to know what variations you have on this. Do you go with this sort of method that I did is kind of like a reverse sear in a way? Or is it straight up, because they're so thin, just straight up over the hot coals and just grill it until it's done? I would love to hear some of the variations so I can try them out. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. See you later. Is that your pose? You got it down. Can you try a piece of the pork? That's a strawberry. How do you manage to slurp a strawberry?